Hi, welcome to the 11th episode of the New England Gal Knits podcast. I am Janet, and I live in Massachusetts with my husband, our two boys, our cat, and our dog. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram at the New England Gal. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and if you're a new viewer, thank you so much for taking some time to check out the podcast. I hope you enjoy it. I also just want to say thank you to everybody who has liked, commented, and subscribed. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. So I have to say, I almost didn't podcast this week. I don't feel like I have accomplished a whole lot of knitting the last 2 weeks since my last podcast. I had said in my last podcast that I was coming to the end of being sick. Yeah, that was not the case. It was actually just the start of being sick. By 11 o'clock that morning, had the sweats and the chills, and by 6 o'clock that night, I had completely lost my voice. And my older son, Jacob, ended up getting it too. And to be honest with you, the both of us for the past 2 weeks, if we're not at work or if I was not taking the boys to an activity, I was sleeping. I've been so exhausted the last few weeks that I feel like I've done nothing but sleep, but I did kind of pull out what I have, and I actually did accomplish some things, so I figured I'd sit down and go over what I do have. So it may be a quicker episode than normal, but hopefully I have some things that you guys will enjoy seeing. So I should start off with, I do have one finished object. So these are a pair of vanilla socks that I had been working on, and these were knit out of, this is Primrose Yarn Company in her Galaxy colorway, in the toes, heels, and cuffs are out of Anzula Squishy in the Fiona colorway. And these were yarns that I had left over from the Half Moon Oracle shawl. So I decided to use up what I had left to knit socks, and I love these. I love the color. I'm so glad I was able to get two knitted items out of the Primrose Yarn Company's yarn, because it is just so special and different. I love the highlighter yellow with the purple. I would have never thought of putting it together myself. But love the way these came out, and I used up every last bit of it. This is all I have left of that yarn, and here's the Anzula Squishy. In the Anzula, it's a merino cashmere nylon blend, and I believe this is a 75-25. So these I knit toe up. And I decided to try for the first time an afterthought heel. I used the Susan B. Anderson Smooth Operator pattern for it. I loved it. I used a waste yarn. I didn't cut my knitting. I'm not quite there yet. I don't know if I'll ever be to the point where I'd feel comfortable cutting my knitting. Although I'd like to learn how to steek. But it's scary. It's a scary thought to sit there and take a pair of scissors to something you spent hours knitting on. But I used the waste yarn and did the afterthought heel, and I absolutely loved it. And I think I did a pretty good job with picking up the stitches and not getting a hole. I did get a hole in the first sock that I had done, but I ended up sewing it on, sewing it up so you don't see it. Susan B. Anderson does reference a video to watch with picking up 2 extra stitches on each side so you don't get a hole, so the second time I was much more successful. So these were knit on a US 1 Addie's, which actually is a 2.5 millimeter. Typically I use Chow Goos, and those are a 2.25 millimeter. So I knit, instead of my 64 stitches that I normally do, I only did 56 stitches. These came out perfect. They fit wonderfully, and I typically do a fish lips kiss heel, and I do find in the instep here that it's a little bit snug these fit perfectly. If I do a typical drop heel and gusset, I find it's too big in the instep for me. So this is perfect. So I think I'm going to continue with doing the afterthought heels. So I really enjoyed these. So these are all done, and I'm gonna wear them today. As soon as I'm done podcasting, I'm gonna put those on. So that is my one and only finished object. I will then jump over to the one item that you guys saw last week. And this is being housed in my Tanny Casey bag. And this is the Exploration Station by Stephen West. And I haven't made a whole lot of progress on it, but I have finished the first section, which is the short row section, and it's kind of smushed on the needles here. So, I don't know how well you can see that, but here it is. So I am all done the first section, which is the short row section, and I will be moving on, hopefully tonight, to the brioche. And I am knitting this out of, this is Plymouth Yarn Sakkie base, and it's a mohair merino nylon blend, and this is in the brown colorway. And here is the tag for that one. And then I am using Jaggerspun in their heather base, and I am doing, this is Wisteria, and then I am also using their Slate. And then the final, which is my absolute favorite, this is Voolenvine yarn, and this is in her Blitzed base, and this is the I Am No Bird color. And I don't know how well you can see the stellina in this, but this is just absolutely stunning, and I love it. I love the way the colors are playing together. And I was worried on how rustic the Jaggerspun is compared to the Voolenvine, but I really do like the way the Voolenvine pops against the heathered and rustic. I don't know how well you can see the heather here, but the rusticness of the Jaggerspun. So I am loving this, and I am knitting these on the Lopi, I think is how you say them, US size 6 circular needles. It is only a 32 inch, so that's why it's kind of bunched up on the needles here. I have to say though, the one thing is there's a lot of ends that need to be woven in on this. I hate weaving in ends. It is my least favorite part of knitting. If I could get away with not weaving in the ends, I would love that, but I will get it done. I always find it so tedious, and I never know if I'm doing it correctly or not. And I don't know, maybe there's not a wrong or right way to weave in ends, but that is my exploration station. Then my next work in progress is a sweater. So it is, I have pictures somewhere, the Sunset Highway Pullover by Caitlin Hunter. And I am loving this. So I did, for my birthday, I did end up going to a yarn shop in Northborough, Craftworks, and they have a really good selection between commercial yarn and hand-dyed yarn. So I ended up picking up some yarn to go with this sweater, and here is what I have so far. I haven't gotten very far on it. I'm still on the yoke, and it is kind of, it's bunched up here. So I am a little concerned with the way it looks like it is extremely bumpy, yet when I pull it, it does kind of lay flat. So I'm hoping once it's blocked, it'll lay flat. I had the same issue with my Jveg sweater, and it ended up blocking out just fine. So what I may do is, once I get through the yoke, I may put it on waste yarn and block it and see how it looks and decide whether or not I want to continue. Because I'd hate to put in all that work of the body and the sleeves and have it block out funny and then not wear it or pull it apart. So we'll see how that goes. So I am knitting this out of, for the top dark part, this is Periwinkle Sheep in the Thunderstorm colorway, and it's their sport weight, but I'm using, the other yarn I'm using is a thicker fingering weight yarn, so I'm hoping it won't make much of a difference, but here it is in the cake. So, and I love the rich blue on this. And then for the contrasting color, I am using Moonstone Dyeworks, and this is her BFL nylon base, and this is in the Crescent Moon. Here's her tag. So, and I've decided, because it is normally done with, this is a different color here and then a different color on the sleeves. I think I'm just going to do all of it with this color. I saw a couple of them where they just use the two contrasting colors for the color work on Ravelry, and I liked the way it worked, and I couldn't find another color I liked that blended with everything, so I think I'm just going to use these two for all of the color work. And then for the body of the yarn, this is 100 Raven yarn in the Jon Snow color, and I still have one that I haven't caked up yet. And I have to say, I think I was drawn to this solely for the name Jon Snow. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I have to say the name of the yarn sometimes pulls me in, and I have to purchase it just because of the name. So anyway, so that is one of the sweaters I am working on. So, and it is, the color work, it is slow going, and like I said, it's really lumpy. I'm really hoping it'll block out well. So we will see once I get the yoke done. I will go ahead and block it and see how it comes out. And I did move, so I'm knitting these on my ChowGoo interchangeables. So it's typically knit with a 4. So I started off with the 4. I went to a 5 just because my color work knitting is rather tight. And then what I'll do is when it comes to the regular stockinette stitch of the body, I'll go back down to the 4. Alright, and then because nothing seemed to be motivating me besides sleep last week, I did start another sweater. I have not gotten very far on it. However, so I started my Klondike Sweater, and this is by Mary Ann Benedetto. And here's a picture of it in full. So, and it is knit out of Lopi, and I'm not even going to try and say the base on this, but this is the Ash Heather colorway. And here's my pathetic beginning so far. So I am just knitting on the ribbing. I'm almost done, and then I can start on the cabling on it. But everything else I'm working on was fingering weight, and I thought maybe if I went to something thicker. These are knit, again, I'm using my ChowGoo interchangeables, and these are on a US 9. So I thought maybe if I did something a little bit chunkier, it would motivate me to do a little bit more, but I put it down and I took a nap on Saturday. I started this on Saturday. So I am a little bit nervous because this is the first seamed sweater that I'm knitting. So, and I'm not a huge fan of sewing, so hand stitching, I should say. So we will see how this goes when all the pieces are done and how it's seamed. I may, the Craftworks place where I had gotten the other yarn, they do a finishing class, so I may take that class to just get a better idea of how to match a stitch and seam sweaters. So the last work in progress I have, it's another pair of socks, and Alright, so here is the first sock. So again, I am doing an afterthought heel and toe up waist yarn for the afterthought heel. So for the toes, and I've started, it's really sad, oh, I'm not even finished a row here, but I do have a toe started for the second sock. So for the toes, I am using Knit Pick Stroll, and I don't have the tag with me. I'll put it down below in the notes what color it is. But this is the Knit Pick Stroll, so I'm using this for toes and heels. So, and then for the main body of the sock, I am doing Black Bunny fibers, and I know I have, here it is. So Black Bunny fibers, here's her tag, and this is on her Stripey sock 7525 base in the color Swamp Thing. So I do have to say, and I'm knitting these on my Chow Goose size 1, so 64 stitches on these. I really want the green. I had started with, I did the toe up because I wanted the purple, I wanted the green on the leg. But I don't know if I'm going to make it to the green. So I may try doing a knee-high sock or go a little bit taller than I normally do to try and get the green in the leg of the sock. The only thing I'll have to figure out is increasing around my calf and how that's going to work. I know Tommy from Squirrel Pie Productions and Moonstone Dyeworks has done a couple knee-high socks, so I may just take a look at her Ravelry, see if she has it on Ravelry, and see what her increases are, and just copy that and see how that comes out. So that is this is my travel bus stop knitting. So that is all I have been working on. As far as acquisitions went this week, there hasn't been a whole lot. I picked up the yarn for the Sunset Highway sweater, the Periwinkle sheep and the 100 Ravens yarn. But other than that, I hadn't purchased any yarn. I did over the last 2 weeks with not feeling well and being tired all the time and sleeping and having no motivation to sit up and knit. I had been doing a lot of reading. So yesterday I had gone out, I was at Barnes & Noble, and Barnes & Noble had a stash of one's own. And I'm sure all of you have heard about it by now because a lot of the podcasters have talked about it. But these are a collection of essays by knitters talking about their stash. So I picked this up so in case, you know, at night when I'm too tired and I don't feel like knitting, I can go ahead and read this. So I'm very excited to start reading it, and I'll let you know how I'm getting along with it as I go. So that's it for my acquisitions. So I did want to talk about a couple things I want to get on the needles, as well as a couple dream knitting items that I've seen that I would love to knit once I have time. One of the items, my skills have to go way up before I could even dare to try to accomplish it. But the first thing I wanted to quickly talk about was another pair of just plain vanilla socks. So with the Primrose yarn, when I knit it on the Addie's 1.5 millimeters, 2.5 millimeter US 1, it flew. I had the pair of socks done in less than 2 weeks. It never takes me less than 2 weeks to knit a pair of socks. So I pulled out, this is Sweet Georgia yarn in her Tough Love sock base, and I don't have the color, but I'll leave it below. And this is nice and thick and squishy, so it'll be perfect for the 2.5 millimeters compared to the 2.25. So I want to get these casted on, and then I figure it would pair perfectly with the Knit Picks Stroll that I'm using on the other pair of socks. And this is left over from my Find Your Fade shawl, which is still a languishing work in progress. So eventually I would like to pull it out and finish it because I love the way it is looking. But for whatever reason, I'm on the 4th color and I've lost my steam on it. So eventually I'd like to finish this year. Hopefully I'll pull it out soon. But anyways, this was the 2nd color I used. So there's something like 47 grams left on this. So my goal is to separate this out into 2 balls, do what I did with the last pair of socks, knit until I have none left, and then do the contrasting cuff. So this, as soon as I'm done my Black Bunny fiber socks, I'll be casting those on. And then this week I would love to get cast on the Irving socks, and this is by Jacqueline Salem. And I want to knit this out of, this is yarn I had dyed myself. So this is the yarn that I used in my Jvaig as the contrasting color for the lace and the color work. So I had dyed up 2 skeins of this at the time. So this will get cast on and become Irving socks this week. And that's it for as far as what I have planned to get on the needles right away. So as far as dream knitting goes, I had gotten my Knit Picks Interweave Spring 2018 issue, and there's 2 sweaters that really stood out that I would definitely love to knit. The first one here is the Clear Creek cardigan, and this is by Sarah Solomon. This is just stunning. I love the cables. I love it's the perfect length. I love that the sleeves are long enough where you can roll up the cuffs. I have a feeling though it is so intricate that it would take me forever to finish that sweater in all its glory. And then the other sweater that I absolutely fell in love with was the Evergreen Mountain Pullover by Bonnie Sennett. And this is a lace design. And I love that as well. I love the color. I love everything about it. It looks like it has a rolled rib neck, which I would love to give a try. I like that finished feel that the roll rib necks give. So that is it. That is all I have. And I actually really have nothing to chat about. I did go out to dinner with a friend for my birthday, and my husband took me out to dinner down in Providence to a restaurant right on the water there. That was beautiful, but I've been so sick and exhausted, I haven't really done anything else. So I have nothing to talk about, and there's nothing coming up. My oldest is going camping this weekend, hopefully, if he feels better and up to it. So we are on the mend and we're feeling better. It's just that feeling of being drained constantly right now that we're trying to get over. So he's camping, but other than that, with it being February, there's not a whole lot we do. It gets so dark early that you're exhausted. You feel like it's 9 o'clock at night when it's only 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And in February it's so cold we don't get out much to do things, so we don't even have anything planned coming up. So that is it for my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider liking it and subscribing, and I hope you guys have two great weeks ahead. Bye!